I am a big fan of GIS technology. I believe that combining health data with geography holds tremendous potential. One of the reasons why I am such a believer is because of Dr. Este Geraghty. She is the Chief Medical Officer at Esri, makers of the industry's leading GIS platform. I caught up with Dr. Geraghty here at SHSMD 24 right before she took the stage with Moffitt Cancer Center to talk about how GIS has helped them to increase their catchment area and engage with community partners. I asked her to give me a preview of their session for Sway Health. Let's get to it.
Sway Health.
Dr. Geraghty, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
It is so fun to be with you here in Denver for the SHSMD 24 conference. And you're speaking on, again, one of my favorite topics, GIS, but with a little bit of a twist this time. So do you mind giving us a little bit of a preview of your session with Moffitt Cancer?
Sure. Yeah, we're going to have a great session, I hope. We really want to talk about how hospitals can leverage GIS to do many things. So there'll be a component where we talk about understanding population health needs. Then we're going to switch into how do you improve individual level healthcare. And then finally, we'll look at it from a business perspective. That's where Moffitt comes in, because they really did a nice job of deploying a GIS project for their cancer center. And they're going to discuss how they expanded their catchment area and how they recruited quite a few community partners to extend cancer care.
So they used GIS to improve their catchment. Is that kind of what I'm hearing here?
Yes.
That's going to be magic to the ears or music to the ears of many marketers out there who are listening to this and watching this.
Yeah, well, it's sort of interesting because for cancer, it's a requirement to define your service area, your catchment geographically. And as the grants are delivered for NCI designated cancer centers want to look good to granting agencies, and so they look to expand their catchment in different ways. And whatever they expand their catchment to, like any service area, they become responsible for that area. They're responsible for the prevalence of cancer and for the outcomes and care that's delivered. So it's a weighty decision.
And along this process, that when you worked with them, did they and you discover anything that was maybe a bit surprising that they didn't know before until they looked at it from a geographic standpoint?
Yeah, I think so. They'll tell the story about how there were a couple of different scenarios that they could have used for expanding their catchment. And one of them ended up with a 25 county catchment area. Seems very large, but in cancer care, they wanted to be able to provide care for a majority of the state of Florida in this case. And 25 just sounded like a good number, right? It's divisible by 5. It's a quarter of 100. But when they looked at the data, when they looked at it all geographically and how it matched some of the other partnership areas and things like that, 23 was actually a magic number. So it's what we always say, right? You can't guide your decisions based on intuition. You need the data, and GIS can help provide that.
So the GIS data helped arrive them at a prime number rather than 25.
Yes. So they ran several scenarios, and GIS made that really easy to see, both visually and look at the statistics. And so they made the right choice.
And what were some of the positive impacts of increasing their catchment area? What was the end result for Moffitt?
Yeah, well, I think one, it helps them get the grant, and maybe, I don't know if they get a bigger grant, but I think a big part of their concern was making sure that in the state of Florida, there's only one NCI designated cancer center, and it's Moffitt. And they want to be able to serve as many underserved populations as possible. So that was a real benefit. You may not say to the health system, but given the values, the core values of a health system, to serve as many people as possible. So there's that sort of difficult to measure piece and the intangible doing the right thing piece, as well as it just makes sense to get a better grant and be able to provide more services.
Dr. Geraghty, I always have to ask you this because GIS is always changing, always evolving. Is there any application of GIS in healthcare that's got you excited recently?
Oh, well, I could go on, but how about if I mention two things?
Absolutely.
Okay, one we'll talk about tomorrow, which is not specific to healthcare, but something we do a lot of, and that is create composite indices.
Okay.
Right? Everybody likes an index. There's a social vulnerability index, a deprivation index. I mean, there's a zillion of them, right? But they're not that easy to do, and they're not all spatially enabled. But we have a semi-new tool, it's been around a year or so, to help create a composite index, and takes you through this whole process of designing the index, analyzing it, and doing exploration to make sure you do it right and according to best practices. I'm pretty excited about that because I'd really like to see healthcare analysts have really, really good tools that help them answer the questions they need to answer. But the other one that I might say is even more exciting is we have had for the last several years a product, a tool called ArcGIS Indoors. And ArcGIS Indoors is being used in hospitals around the world, actually, to manage their infrastructure. So you can manage a building, you can do your preventive maintenance, you can supply wayfinding for your visitors, you can manage your safety and security through that product. And so people are using it for all of these different kinds of things, space management, figuring out where to put the offices and the parking that goes to which office. I mean, all of those things are very spatial problems. And so using ArcGIS Indoors, that's our product that does this work, people can do the entire infrastructure lifecycle management effort. So we're pretty excited about that.
So with the ArcGIS Indoors, are they able to analyze and kind of optimize like the layouts of their infrastructure, and maybe you go, hey, well, instead of putting this over here because we're seeing a lot of people walk this way or a lot of equipment go this back and forth, maybe putting them closer together might make more sense. Yeah. Can they do that kind of analysis? Absolutely.
I mean, the obvious one sort of that I mentioned is, you know, parking and office space. That's kind of an easy one, but you could also do things that are more complex, like you could maybe do analysis for your patient gridding, for example, or you could figure out better infection control policies and how you want to isolate or quarantine people with different kinds of infections, or where you put particular types of hand washing stations. Given that, you know, in one place you've got C. diff and another one you've got a different kind of infection, you need different kinds of hand washing stations. So yeah, you can do the analytics, figure out where your pharmacy should go, where the lab should go, all of those really big decisions to minimize the travel time, you know, thinking about labs on ice and stuff, you don't want it to melt. Any of those things could be done if you wanted to do it.
As always, you share a lot of great information with us. Where can people go to learn more about Esri?
Oh, well, that's a really good question. Our email or our website is actually really easy. It's esri.com, and then just do /health, and you'll get right to all of those health components.
And you guys have got a lot of great stuff out there. I always go down the rabbit hole whenever I visit that site of all the different things you're able to do.
Allocate some time when you go there.
Yeah, it's very exploratory. It's very exploratory. Well, thank you so much for being on the program. As always a pleasure to have you.
Same for me. Thank you so much, Colin.
Hey, I want to thank Dr. Geraghty for hopping on camera with me. I always learn so much from her. I thought the use of GIS to identify those 23 counties that Moffitt could best serve was just a perfect way to show how the technology can help healthcare wisely spend their resources. And hey, if you enjoyed this interview, please mash that like button and click subscribe. Also, head on over to Sway Health, that's Sway with 2 A's, .health, where you will find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung here for Sway Health in Denver, Colorado. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you on the next video.